It's another math day with you, with teacher Jenny. Join me in here for another episode on factoring trinomials with the constant that is not a perfect square. So we move on to our first example. So we have a squared minus 7a minus 18. Now kindly check on my other video, the first part, that was all about positive constant in there and finding the factors of the trinomial. But this one here, it's a negative constant, but along the way of the video, you will also be expecting that there will be a positive in there. So it's a mixture already. So let us try to have this one. So once you have a negative constant, we have negative 18 in there. And based on my previous video, we had this one, which is if we have a constant which is not a perfect square, we are just going to do a trial and error. Now, doing the trial and errors, we take on the constant and we bring along with them the negativity or the positivity. Now, since this is negative 18, we are going to look for factors that when you multiply them, you will be arriving at a negative 18. And those factors could either be a positive or a negative, or another pair of factor could be negative or positive. Now, to just break down our um, count or number of factors in there, then we are just going to consider our middle term. Now, by looking at the middle term, we've seen that this is negative. So that would simply mean that your bigger number or bigger factor in there is negative. So to simply say it, when you are going to factor out trinomials with a constant that is not a perfect square, and also take note on this, with a leading coefficient equal to 1, meaning the number beside your a squared is 1 in there, you are just going to simply look for factors in which your bigger number, the sign of the bigger number, will be basing on the middle term sign. So that means since negative or our middle term is negative, then the bigger factor will be also negative. If that is positive, then the bigger factor will be also positive. So we have that idea, and now let's go on and find those factors. So we start off with 1. And pairing to that one is 18. And again, this is negative, so we are having negative 18 in there. And once again, adding that one, we have negative 17. Now, looking at it on our middle term, this is not what we are looking for. Now, let's move on to the next factor. So we cross that out. Let's move on to the next factor. Next factor is 2. And checking up whether the 2 there is divisible by each other. Yes, indeed they are, because negative 18 divided by 2 is negative 9. Adding that one, that will be equal to negative 7. And negative 7 is in our middle term. So that means to say we are taking on these values and attaching that one to the factors in there. So writing the factors, we have there quantities, and then writing the first term. First term is now derived from the first term of the trinomial, simply taking out the root in there because this is with the leading coefficient which is equal to 1. So if that's the case, we are just going to separate your a and a in there because a times a is a squared. Now next, we go to the factors that we found in there and attaching that one to your A, so bringing along with them the signs as well. So we have here A, and that's positive 2. So that means to say we have a plus and a 2. And then we have another A. Since this is negative, so we will have a minus in there and a 9. So there you go with your factors of A squared minus 7A minus 18. Now we go to the next one. We have x squared minus 21x minus 72. And again, negative 72 is not a perfect square. So I want you to practice there on your own by pausing the video here and come back to the video once you have your factors and check out whether you are on the right track. Okay, now let's take on negative 72. Now for negative 72, we are going to consider factors with bigger number in there with the negative sign because your middle term contains a negative in there. So that means to say bigger factor must contain a negative sign. So writing the factors, we have positive 1 and negative 72. Adding them, that will be negative 71. And we go for the next one. So next one is 2. And then 72 divided by 2, that is divisible by each other. So we have there 2 plus 72 divided by 2, that gives off 36. So we have negative 36 in there. Adding the two together, that gives off negative 34. And again, that is not the number found in the middle term. So we go for the next number, and we know that 72 is divisible by 3. 72 divided by 3, we have that one as um, 24. And that's negative. So adding that one, this is now equal to negative 21. And bingo, there you go with your middle term. So that means to say we are taking along with me or you the factors 3 and negative 24. Now we are on for writing the factors. Writing the factors in here, we have x squared. So we will be writing x here and x there. And then your factors, we have positive 3. So that becomes plus 3. And the negative 24, that becomes a minus 24. So there you go with your factors on x squared minus 21x minus 72. Next, we go for this one. This is found in my first video. So if you do have time, you can check it out. You can look for that video on the playlist for grade 8 mathematics, or you can have it under grade 11 mathematics or the general mathematics playlist. Okay, now let's go on. So we have 48 here, which is positive, and we know that 48 is not a perfect square. So we move on to factoring. Finding the factors, of course. So we have there in the middle term, we have positive. So that means we are looking forward to a positive as your factors. So we'll start off with 1. So by the way, you can just compute or look for the factors here by pausing the video and then come back again once you have the factors. Okay, we have 1 and 48 here and adding the 2. This gives off 49 and checking the middle term. This is not the middle term. Next, we go to the next number. We've got 2 in there, wherein 2 will be paired to 24 because 48 divided by 2, that gives off 24. Adding that one, that will be 26. And that's not the middle term. We go on to the third one. So this is 3. Now, 48 divided by 3, we can still come up with a whole number, and that is 16. So adding the two together, that will be 19. And looking at your example, example, the middle term is not 19, so we cross that out. We move to the next factor, so we have 4 and 48 divided by 4 is simply 12. Adding that one, that will be 16. By looking at the middle term, that's not the number that we're looking for. So next we move to 5, but no, 48 cannot be divided by 5. It will give off a remainder. So we move to the next number. We have 6, and we know based on multiplication table or any skip counting for 8 or 6, we have there a 48. So that is 6 will be paired to your 8, and adding that one, that gives off 14. So there you go with your middle term. We are taking along 6 and 8 as the factors. So writing the factors now, we have that is x squared. So we are going to separate your x's here. And then we have to bring positive 6. So we have plus 6. Positive 8. So we have plus 8 in there. And there you go with your factors. So I hope you are learning from me today. And there are more factoring coming to you soon in my next video. So kindly click and subscribe, and then click on the bell button so that you will be updated on my next and latest video. I'll see you in my next video. Goodbye. And remember, math is really easy. It's a matter of mental conditioning. You will be conditioning your mind that math is really not troublesome. It's indeed a series of procedure or steps that you need to follow. It's a repetition of the steps in there. So once you've mastered this one by simply practicing and practicing more, then math will become an easy subject for you. That's it. This is your teacher Jenny with you and saying goodbye.